Hey YouTube, Bob here, coming at you with my Q&A video, which you probably remember was part of my 10,000 subscriber milestone celebration. It was first announced in the giveaway of 6 Amiibo figures that I've already done, and that was way back in June of 2015. It's now August of 2015, and I finally had a chance to sift through all of the questions, almost 150 questions we have to get through, and I put them in categories here. So I'm going to read the question and give the answer to the best of my ability. And if I don't get to your question specifically, it's probably because I'm answering somebody else's question that was kind of in the same vein. So I'm trying my best not to have repeats here, although I can't promise that's not going to happen entirely. If I don't get to your question at all, it's probably just because I didn't really have a good answer for it. So without further ado, we are going to get started here. I've got the questions in several categories. The first one is YouTube. So, any more import videos, any more comparison, any more items Club Nintendo. So yeah, as those things come up, I'll definitely do videos on them. As far as Club Nintendo goes, probably not, because Club Nintendo, as you know, no longer exists. However, I am going to mention my final Club Nintendo reward in my forthcoming room tour video. So stay tuned for that. Did you get an opportunity to visit a Best Buy last weekend to try the new Mario Maker game? I did not. If I'm being honest with you, it's because I don't like having strangers watch me play games. So I would like to try Mario Maker for the first time in the comfort of my own home. Have you thought about doing special videos with either special guests or remotes from any specific video game related events? Not in the near future. I'm going to stick to just me for now. How does it feel to have achieved 10,000 subscribers? Feels great. It's not a goal that I had. I just make the videos because I enjoy doing it and I want to share what I have with the community. So 10,000 subscribers was just kind of, a happy consequence of doing that. How long do you think you'll be on YouTube? Well, for as long as YouTube's around and for as long as I have things to share with you guys. I know your channel is World of Nintendo, but I'd love to see more videos and hear more about some of your favorite Sega Genesis games and accessories. I like that idea too. There's no reason why I won't do that in the future. I'm sure you've talked about this at some point, but what got you into making videos about your collection? Basically just seeing what other members of the YouTube community were doing. They were talking about their opinions, their experiences, and the pieces that they have in their collection, and I thought, hey, I have experiences. I have a decent collection. I can make videos too. So basically, monkey see, monkey do. What's your least favorite thing about YouTube? I'd have to say basically the forums or the comments, because any type of news article or anything on the net that has a public forum, a lot of people sound off in a very negative and derogatory way. They'd say things to people who they don't even know that they'd never say in real life. And I don't like seeing those negative comments. So I'd have to say the negative comments. It's my least favorite part of YouTube. So those are all the questions about YouTube. We're going to move on to the next category here, which is collecting. And this is one of the biggest categories here. So, $1,000 is donated to you. What one item from your collection do you buy? Well, it wouldn't cover it entirely, but I would put that $1,000 towards a Donkey Kong arcade cabinet. About how much money does your whole Nintendo collection cost? No idea, and honestly, I don't care to know. Are there any Nintendo products which you did not feel the need to buy? Yeah, there's thousands of things I'm sure I'd love to have that were exclusive to Japan, so if I don't know about them, I'm not going to buy them. But what I consciously don't buy from Nintendo is Pokemon. And I'm not going to get into that in this video. I explain it more in my forthcoming collection video. So no Pokemon in my collection. As a fellow Chicagoland citizen, do you sometimes find it hard to find retro video game items locally? Definitely, yeah. Most of the things that I want are, if they're imports or if I want them in very nice condition, I do have to search those out online at websites like Amazon or eBay. Mostly eBay. Bob, where do you usually like to get all your Nintendo stuff? Well, Amazon or eBay. Mostly eBay. Do you collect for anything else than Nintendo? You guys have seen in my collection videos my Sega Genesis collection, my PlayStation 1, PlayStation 3, TurboGrafx 16, and just earlier this year I think it was, or maybe last year, I started getting into some Sega Master System stuff because I have the power-based converter from a Genesis. Do you have a new 3DS? Yes, I do. Do you have all of Nintendo's first few consoles? Well, that depends on what you mean by consoles. If you mean home consoles, then yes. If you mean the dedicated TV game consoles, no, I don't have all of those. I only have one TV Game 6, and I've done a video on that one. Do you have all the Amiibo that have been released? Yes, I do. At the filming of this video, Dark Pit is the most current Amiibo that's been released, and I was lucky enough to get him. Do you have every Nintendo console? For the most part, again, if you're counting home consoles, I don't have the Pokemon themed, I think it's like a Pikachu Portable or something like that. I know I don't have that one. I don't have the Panasonic IQ version of the GameCube that was released only in China. So I do have an iteration of every home console, but I don't have every version necessarily. I also don't have the twin Famicom, which is the Famicom and disk system together in one unit. Do you have Madden 13, FIFA 13, NBA 2K13 for the Wii U? Much like in real life, I don't like sports, so I don't really like sports games. So no, very few sports games in my collection. Unless it's a first-party game made by Nintendo on the NES or the Super NES. That's where I have the most sports games. Other than that, if it's a Mario-themed sports game, then yeah, I have it. Let's see here. Do you like any other gaming companies other than Nintendo? I think all gaming companies are great. I think they're all necessary. I don't agree with what they all do, and I'm not interested in the products that all of them put out. But yeah, I do respect all gaming companies. Do you own games from any other countries besides the US or Japan? Not too many. The only one that I can think of off the top is freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land for the Nintendo DS. That's a European import that I have. Do you plan to make an update video for your video game soundtrack collection? Probably not in the near future. I've only gotten 1 or 2 soundtracks since the last time I made that video, and if you make a brand new video for just 1 or 2 new pieces, most of the video is going to be a repeat of the last one. So I'm going to have acquired quite a few new soundtracks before I do a new soundtrack video. Do you play PC games? Not currently, although when I was in high school, around 15, 16 years old, I was kind of weaned on Wolfenstein, Doom, Doom 2, and Quake. But since then, no, I really don't play too many PC games. Do you play PlayStation or Xbox? No Microsoft systems. There really isn't too much that I'm interested in from Microsoft. However, you do know that I have the PS1 and PS3. Have you played Mother 3 yet? I would love to. I haven't. I really want to have another run through Earthbound. It's been quite a while since I played Earthbound, so I want to go through that one again first. Hey Yoi, I'm a huge fan on how organized your collection is. I'm just curious. If you do not have a Power Glove, is it because it's third party? You're focusing on first party? It's 100% correct. I believe the Power Glove was made by a company called Galoob, not Nintendo. It is kind of a nostalgic, it's an icon, as far as video game goes, especially those of us who are nostalgic for the NES, but Nintendo didn't make it, and plus it doesn't really work, so nope, don't have that one in my collection. How'd you build your collection? Well, I'd have to say patience, money, and being obsessive. Those 3 pieces went into making my collection. What else do we got here? How did you obtain those Amiibos? Same thing. Patience, money, and being obsessive. Mostly being obsessive on that one, because Amiibos just kind of naturally lend themselves to Nintendo collecting. How'd you start in collecting Nintendo items? I'm going to defer that question once again to my forthcoming room tour video, because I talk about my history of collecting. I've already talked about my history of being a Nintendo fan in my Nintendo Narrative series. I'm going to get more into my collecting history as part of my room tour. How do you manage to buy so many games and collectibles? Well, I am a gainfully employed adult, so that definitely helps. How do you afford your hobby? Same thing, gainfully employed adult. How long have you been interested in Nintendo? What are other things you like to do? As far as being interested in Nintendo, that first started back in 1987 for my 8th birthday when I got my NES. As far as other things I like to do, I'll get to that once we get to the personal category of questions. How many complete in-box NES games do you have? I'm not sure. I haven't done a count recently, but I can send you to backloggery.com/yoy. That's where I keep an updated list of my collection. How many games do you have total? Same thing. Not really sure at this point. Go to backloggery.com/yoy to see what I have. How often do you spend time gaming? Not very often. I would say probably maximum 2 hours per week. Less once the school year starts. I have 2 questions. Where'd you get your 64DD? How much of the collection do you own? Interesting. This question was submitted obviously before I did my 3-part series on the 64DD. I got it on eBay, I think in about 2009. Got it for a pretty good price. And just recently, earlier this year, I got the last piece of software that I needed. So I do have all 10 pieces of software released for the 64DD. I love your gaming setup. How long did it take you to get everything together? I've been collecting as an adult for about 9 years, so about that long. If you could wish for one item to be in your collection that you've yet to own, what item would it be? Definitely say a Donkey Kong arcade cabinet. If you had to pick, what's your favorite item in your collection and why? I'd say my favorite item is my gold limited edition version of Punch-Out that was released for the Famicom as part of a golf tournament prize. So it was a prize for that tournament. Not really sure about the details, but I really like that game because it's a variation of one of my favorite NES games, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. It's a variation as far as the software goes. Mike Tyson's not in it. Some of the colors are different. And I also like it because it's very different even for a Famicom game. It has a different size. It's a gold color like the Legend of Zelda cartridge. So I just think all in all, it's a neat, rare piece to have. What else? Is it worth getting into collecting for the Famicom if you don't know Japanese? I would say yes, but that depends on the games that you want to play. If you're really into RPGs and you want to see some of the first Final Fantasy games, I'd say no, because those are very text-based. But if you're into side-scrollers, yeah, go for it, because you'd be surprised. A lot of those games are completely in English. Only the packaging is in Japanese. Is there any game you've wanted for a very long time yet just couldn't get your hands on? The one that I had the hardest time getting, or the one that I had to wait the longest for, was Japan Pro Golf 64 for the 64DD. Finally just got that in the collection this year. Another piece was the Punch-Out version of Game & Watch. That one I had to hold out a while for. What are some tips for new collectors? Well, I would say number one, decide if you really want to collect. If you're just a gamer and enjoy playing, types of games that you like, just buy those types of games that you like. But if you've been bitten by the collecting bug, I would say, pick a focus. Do you want to focus on a certain console, genre of game, or retro versus modern? Pick a focus first and then go from there. The next important thing that you're going to want to decide on, especially if you're going retro, is if packaging is important to you. If you just want loose carts for retro systems, that's great. That's an inexpensive way to go. But if you want everything that came with it, box, manual, inserts, baggies, you're going to spend a bit more money there. So you're going to want to make that decision right off the bat. What's the best way to collect pricey/expensive Nintendo consoles and games? Well, pricey being the operative word here, I'd say money. You are going to have to be prepared to pay for those items. And something I've noticed, unfortunately, I started collecting back in 2006. And I'd say right around the 2010 mark, game collecting has really become more expensive. I see some things that I got earlier on, like the 64DD, the Satellaview for the Super Famicom. A lot of those things are going, even loose, not complete in box, for quite a bit more than I actually paid for them. So saving money and being prepared to pay those prices. What's the rarest, most expensive item in your collection? That's hard to say. I'd have to say it's either my 64DD collection or that gold Punch-Out game for the Famicom that I mentioned earlier. What keeps you so persistent on collecting so many Nintendo items over the years? I'd have to say two things mainly. My nostalgia for Nintendo, and that I love playing the games, and also, well, I like to obsessively collect things. What piece of your collection is your most prized? Yeah, I think we already kind of got into that one. It's the gold Punch-Out. What would be your 5 or 10 favorite items in your collection, and why? Ooh, I have to think about that. Gold Punch-Out. I think the Punch-Out Game & Watch. My Satellaview for the Super Famicom. My 64DD for the Japanese N64, which, by the way, also works on the US N64. And I think either my complete set of Nintendo Power magazines. I think that's one of my favorite pieces. When did you first start collecting Nintendo stuff? When was your first system? I'm going to defer that again to my forthcoming room tour video when I talk more about my adult collecting. But I did first start as an adult collector in 2006. Where would you recommend buying games outside of eBay? Now that totally depends on the types of games that you're going for. If you want new modern games, you could probably just look for them for cheaper prices at GameStop or flea markets, yard sales, things like that. If you're going for retro games, you might find some things on Craigslist, but if you want retro games again that are in, complete condition, probably going to have to go to eBay for those. Alright, so that's the end of the collecting category. Moving on to professional. What's professional? Well, a lot of people ask me about my profession, so that's what these are about. Any advice for someone that is thinking about becoming a teacher? Definitely. You need to, number one, love your content area, what you teach. I teach Spanish. But number two, and this is the most important, you have to love working with kids. It's great to love your content area and what you teach, but you also have to be enthusiastic and passionate about sharing that information with kids. You have to make them interested about it so that they can go forth and use that information to some degree that's, productive in their own life. Because without the kids to teach it to, there's no reason to be teaching. So you have to love working with kids, and you have to love your content area. And you have to be prepared to work really hard, too. Are you happy with your career choice? Definitely. Have you ever told your students about your collection and have had discussions about games with them? I never actively tell my students about my collection. A lot of them approach me about it and say, hey, do you have a YouTube channel? They know I do. And I kind of say, maybe. Be all kind of coy about it. Yeah, I've discussed games with students. Have you had to explain why you collect Nintendo items rather than more popular titles like Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, etc.? No, not really. Usually the students who approach me about my collection are just enthusiastic and excited that I actually like something that's related to something that they like. How long have I been teaching? I believe I'm going into my 12th year of teaching this year. I'm very interested in linguistics, and I know you speak Spanish as well as English, and you're teaching yourself Japanese. Would you say that Japanese is harder to learn than Spanish? How so? I would definitely say that Japanese is more difficult than Spanish for a couple reasons. The first is the writing system. Japanese uses 3 writing systems: hiragana for native words, katakana for foreign or borrowed words, as well as some names and onomatopoeia sounds, and then there's kanji, which is, for the most part, borrowed from Chinese and often has very different meanings in Japanese than in Chinese. And it takes a long time to memorize kanji. So that's really a barrier for the Japanese language student. And also I would say that English grammar is a lot more similar in structure to Spanish than it is Japanese. So the grammar and the writing systems make Japanese more difficult than Spanish. What is the subject that you teach? Spanish. Do you teach grade school, middle school, or high school? I teach high school. Are your students aware of hobbies such as your collecting or YouTube channel? Some of them are. What level Spanish do you teach? I just got done with Spanish 1. I have taught Spanish 1, Spanish 2, Spanish 3 honors, and Spanish 4 honors. This year I'm going to be teaching Spanish 1 and Spanish 4 honors. So that's professional. Nintendo-related questions. This is a pretty big category too. What was your first memory of a Nintendo product? What is your favorite Club Nintendo reward? My first memory is playing Super Mario Brothers for the first time at the house of, it was a friend of a friend. So it wasn't my direct friend, but it was his friend who had gotten a Nintendo Entertainment System. Favorite Club Nintendo reward is the statue of all the Mario characters. I thought that one was the coolest, mainly because it came in a question block box. I have a 3DS, but I have no friends, so I was wondering if you would add me. It would be great to have a YouTuber as a friend. I would love to, but I have a policy where I don't friend people on anything, really, unless I've met them in real life. Would you be willing to subscribe to my channel? My channel is very small, and I need more subscribers. As far as subbing goes, I'll take a look at your channel. If I like the content you put out, then yeah, I will definitely subscribe, but I don't do sub for sub. Are you looking forward to purchasing Star Fox Zero when it's released? Of course. Do you like Punch-Out? Yeah, I like Punch-Out. It's one of my favorite games. Do you think Nintendo should collaborate with the people to set up the RandNet servers again? Huh. Interesting that this question came in before I did my 64DD videos. RandNet, if you've seen those videos, is the online service that Nintendo partnered with to make the 64DD online capable. As far as this day and age in 2015, I'd say no. The infrastructure of the internet has changed so drastically, and I'm not even sure RandNet's around anymore, so probably not. I don't think RandNet is relevant at this point, at least for Nintendo. Do you think Nintendo should go into the mobile market by creating games featuring first-party titles? I think that would be a good idea. The Wii U's not doing so very well. Nintendo's kind of at a crossroads right now, given the unfortunate death of Satoru Iwata. So I do think they need to dabble in some new areas to try to get things going again. Do you think Nintendo will be having the new 3DS in the United States? Fortunately, no. Probably just the XL at this point. Do you think someone should upgrade to the new Nintendo 3DS XL if they already own the old one? It depends. If you want to play games that only work on the new Nintendo 3DS XL, then yeah, something like Xenoblade, I'd go for it. If you like 3D, playing in 3D, but you don't like that you have to hold it in the sweet spot, definitely. I'd say that's the neatest feature of the new 3DS. The 3D on that is phenomenal. It's what it should have been all along. So if you can afford it, or if you need to play the new games on the new system, yeah, I would upgrade definitely. How long has Nintendo been around? Since 1889, quite a while ago. How do you think Reggie Fils-Aimé and Satoru Iwata are leading Nintendo? Well, this question was submitted obviously before the unfortunate news about Satoru Iwata, and I think in general Satoru Iwata did a fantastic job getting Nintendo to where they are today. If you think about the GameCube and what the Wii did to kind of offset that financial situation that they were in, I think he did a wonderful job. I think Reggie's doing a good job too over here in the United States, especially considering that now Amiibo are being produced in larger numbers and they're easier to get. So if you were to have asked me that question back in January, I'd say, no, Reggie Fils-Aimé is doing a terrible job. I want to be able to get, I wanted maybe the Majora's Mask 3D 3DS, but no, you had to be right on top of that to get it. I wanted the Skull Kid figure from Majora's Mask 3D, but no, that sold out right away. I think they were doing a terrible job at getting their products to consumers. But as far as Amiibo go, I think things are on the up. Things are improving. If you were able to propose an idea for a new Nintendo franchise to Nintendo, what would your idea be? I don't really have a good answer for that question. I'm more of a gamer than a designer. I really like side-scrollers. Those are my favorite types of games. Unfortunately, Nintendo already has lots of side-scrolling franchises, so probably not the one to ask about that. What I am interested about is this new IP that Shigeru Miyamoto is supposedly working on. In your opinion, what are some of the most underrated games in Nintendo's biggest franchises? I would have to say Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Because when that game first released in 2003, everybody was, kind of dogging on the new graphical style. But then when it was re-released in HD on the Wii U, everybody was giving the game the praise that it deserved, in my opinion, right out of the gate. So I think Legend of Zelda: Wind Waker is definitely one of the most underrated games in a Nintendo franchise. Random question. Do you want a Club Nintendo 3DS XL charging cradle? I already have one, but thank you if you were offering. What character would you like to see in Super Smash Bros. For 3DS or Wii U? I've thought about this quite a bit, and I had a hard time coming up with anything. Given that I like the nostalgic factor of Nintendo, I'd probably go back to something to one of the obscure characters from the original black box games on the NES. Maybe the Wrecking Crew version of Mario, or the motorist from Excite Bike, or even the gunfighters from Wild Gunman. Although, as I say that, they already did a good job, reviving some retro characters like Rob the Robot and the Duck Hunt characters. So, we'll see. What did you think of the Nintendo World Championship? I really didn't follow it all that much. I have fond memories of the original one back in 1990, and that's, kind of a memory I'd like to keep back there. What experiences do you anticipate from Nintendo in the future? It's going to be something fun. I know they're kind of in a difficult situation right now, but I think they're going to keep the fun coming. What feature do you not like about the Nintendo GameCube controller? I'd have to say that the D-pad is too small, and I don't like that on the Wavebird, which is the wireless version of the GameCube controller, that there is no rumble feature. So no rumble on the Wavebird and the small D-pad. What are your thoughts on the NX console? It's way too early to start talking about NX. I almost wish Nintendo didn't mention. I'm surprised they did. They usually don't mention things so far out. And I don't like all the speculation and rumors that follow. I like to read about what's going to be rather than about what somebody thinks may be. So I stay away from rumors and speculation about that. What game/series would you most like to see make a comeback? Probably something in the Wave Race series. I was almost envisioning when the Wii was popular, specifically Wii Fit, Nintendo kind of pairing the balance board with the Wii Motion Plus remote, where you had to kind of shift your weight on the balance board and hold the Wii remote kind of like, the actual handle on a jet ski, and you had to play the game like that. I thought that would be kind of cool. So Wave Race is a series I'd like to see. Plus, I think it would look beautiful in HD either on the 3DS, on the Wii U, or in 3D on the 3DS. What is a dream crossover game? I kind of consider myself a purist. I like characters to stay within their respective franchises. So crossovers really aren't for me. However, I am interested in playing with the pixel art characters from different franchises in Mario Maker. What else have we here? What is your opinion about Nintendo doing a little bit of mobile games? Already addressed that one. I think it's a good thing, and at this point kind of necessary for them. My favorite console, what is it? It is the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or the Super Famicom. What's your favorite game on the Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, and why? Would have to say Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, because Legend of Zelda is one of my most favorite franchises, and I have really good memories playing that game with friends. Close runner-up would be Super Mario World. What's your favorite Legend of Zelda game? Link to the Past. What's your favorite Mega Man game? Mega Man 2 on the NES. Who's your favorite Nintendo employee? I would have to say Shigeru Miyamoto, because the games that I love most, he is directly responsible for. If it weren't for him, they wouldn't be around. What's your favorite Nintendo game? That's a tough question. I think I'm going to go more universal here. I think I'm going to choose something along the lines of Tetris DS for the Nintendo DS, because I love Tetris. It's a game that I can just pick up and play whenever, and I love the Nintendo skin that the game has on it. I think it's the best version of Tetris, or it's my favorite version anyway. What's your favorite Nintendo villain and favorite Amiibo? I would have to go, if we're going to go purely villain, it's going to be Bowser. Love Bowser. And my favorite Amiibo at this point is one of the Bowsers. I like the detail on those. What's your favorite Pokemon game? Don't do the Pokemon. What's your favorite RPG title? Chrono Trigger, hands down. What's your favorite system to collect for and your favorite Nintendo handheld? Favorite system to collect for, I would have to say, is the Super Famicom, because there were a lot of games that were released on that system that were not released in the United States. And my favorite handheld would be the new 3DS XL, because it's the only one we have here. What's your favorite thing that you have bought in the past couple months? Well, if we're going to limit it to that, it's going to be the Japan Pro Tour Golf 64 for the 64DD. One of the things I was waiting for most to get my hands on. Favorite thing about Nintendo? I'd have to say that their games are fun and that I have a lot of nostalgia for them. What's your favorite video game ever? Favorite video game? I'd say it's probably going to be Tetris DS, or Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, or Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. What's your favorite part of your collection? I would have to say that my collection is uniquely me. One of my goals in collecting was reattaining every console that I ever had and every game that I ever had as a kid. And plus, it's just very uniquely tailored to my own tastes. So that's my favorite part of my collection. What is your least favorite Nintendo game? I would have to say basically just about any game that I'm not really interested in. Nintendo's been publishing a lot of games from some of their closer third-party or second-party studios, rather. And at this point, if I didn't buy it, it's just because I wasn't interested in it. So maybe it's not that I dislike it, it's just that I have a lack of interest. What's your most sought-after piece of Nintendo hardware/software/merchandise? Is there anything you refuse to collect? What's your favorite Nintendo controller, first party or third party? Most sought-after piece, something I'm realistically could get, is the Donkey Kong arcade cabinet. I'd love to have that. Something I refuse to collect, yeah, not going for Pokemon. I don't collect Pokemon. Favorite Nintendo controller? That's easy. That's the Super Nintendo Entertainment System or Super Famicom controller. What's your number one favorite piece in your collection? Mike Tyson's Punch-Out Gold for Famicom. What's your personal favorite genre of games? First-person shooter, TPS. Third-person shooter, probably. Rhythm, point-and-click, hybrid, side-scroller. 2D side-scroller is definitely my favorite type of game. What Super Nintendo games would you recommend to me? I have Super Mario World, Super Mario All-Stars, Mario Paint, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, and Pilot Wings. Now, that's largely based on what you like to play, but I see a lot of Mario in there, so I would recommend Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and or 3. What's the first Nintendo game/game series, system, or accessory that sparked your interest in Nintendo and or gaming in general? As far as interest in Nintendo, it was definitely Super Mario Brothers back when I was 8 years old. As far as collecting, there are two games, one for the GameCube and one for the DS, that I'm going to mention in my Game Room Tour video that's coming up soon about my adult collecting. What was your first Nintendo game that you played by memory? That would have to be the original Legend of Zelda on the NES. What's your first Nintendo game you ever played? Super Mario Brothers for the NES. What was your first video game/console? It was the Nintendo Entertainment System. What's your favorite GameCube generation game? Oh, wow. GameCube is not my most favorite Nintendo console, but I would have to say Smash Brothers Melee. Smash Brothers Melee for GameCube. What's your favorite Nintendo arcade game? Donkey Kong. One thing that I lament about Donkey Kong is we never got a proper port. I believe Europe, I think on the Wii actually got a proper port of Donkey Kong. But the NES version, which is the only one that I have, is missing a lot of the animations and some sound effects. So I would love to have, you know, the arcade cabinet, of course, but a proper port of Donkey Kong. What's your favorite Sonic game? Sonic 1, the first one. What's your favorite video game? Went over that one already. I think I would, if I were stuck on a desert island, I'd choose Tetris DS. But as far as favorite games go, Wave Race 64, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. My most favorite Nintendo character. It's a toss-up between Bowser and Donkey Kong. I think I'm going to err on the side of Donkey Kong just because of his significance for Nintendo as a whole, and the fact that he's one of the few characters that is either a villain or a protagonist. I think that's kind of a neat feature. What do you think when do you think the NX would be out? No idea. Like I said, I don't like to speculate on things that are so far out, and especially now since it's sounding like the new Legend of Zelda game that's supposed to be for the Wii U may not even be coming out for the Wii U. I've got no clue. So those are all the questions for Nintendo. The next category is Amiibo. Are you planning on purchasing the Yoshi Woolly World game? Yeah, and the Amiibo that go along with it. At the looks of it, you have practically all the Amiibo that are currently released right now. Which is your favorite out of waves 1, 2, 3, and 4? Ooh, I don't really have the Amiibos memorized by wave. However, I will refer to my collection that's immediately to my left here. I think from wave 1, Samus was my favorite just because of her paint job. From wave 2, Pit from Kid Icarus. From wave 3, and see now I don't remember which one was specifically from wave 3. Might have been Bowser, although Bowser may have been from wave 2, but definitely like Bowser. And from wave 4, that one is a little more fresh in my mind. I think I'm going to say Ness. Ness was my favorite from wave 4. Can you do a newer video for your Amiibo collection? Yep, the Amiibo collection videos are going to be coming. Do you play Smash Brothers, and which character do you play as? Do you collect Amiibo, and which are you hyped for the most? I do play Smash Brothers, and when I do, I tend to favor the Mii Sword Fighter. He's my favorite. Which Amiibo are you hyped for the most? Honestly, I'm the most hyped for this being over with. I love collecting Amiibo, but since it takes so much effort, I am longing for the days when it's finally over with and I have a complete collection. So I'm not hyped for a particular Amiibo, I'm hyped for all of them once I have the complete collection. Do you share my obsession with King DDD? Not an obsession, but he is one of my favorite Amiibos. I think his paint job is stellar. Do you think Amiibo will be highly collectible in the future? It depends. If it's something like Mario, either boxed or unboxed, not so much. If it's a rare one still in the box, maybe like Little Mac or Marth, I think so. I think where we're going to see the value in Amiibo as a whole are complete collections, either boxed or unboxed. I think that's where we're going to see the eventual value, but way down the line. We're talking like, 15 or 20 years from now. I collect some Amiibo, but open them. Is it worth it to keep the empty boxes? That's up to you. If you do open them, there really isn't as much collector's value, specifically if it's a common character. If you want to keep the boxes for your own personal collection, I think that's what you need to consider. Have you ever been Amiibo hunting? Of course, go Amiibo hunting all the time. I know you collect both American as well as Japanese versions of Nintendo's hardware, but since Nintendo will be releasing a gray version of Rob the Robot here in the US, while Japan will get the Family Computer Robot variant, my question is, will you be collecting both versions of the figure? Yes, definitely. Also, if you are you also planning on acquiring the Japanese standalone package Splatoon Squid? You'll find the answer to that question in my forthcoming room tour video. In light of the mountain of Amiibo Nintendo announced at E3, are you planning on collecting every single one? What about Animal Crossing cards? Are you afraid of running out of space? Yes, yes, and yes. I am going to get all the Amiibos. The Animal Crossing cards I'm going to do my best with. I'll buy as many packs and get as many as I can, but since this is left largely to the luck of the draw, given the cards you get in the packs you buy, we'll see how far I get. What was the last question there? Are you afraid of running out of space? Yes, I am. You're going to see my interim solution to that in my room tour video. What's a good way to store/display Amiibo? Do you open your Amiibo? I do not open the Amiibo. As far as displaying them, it's a lot easier if you take them out of the package because they take up a lot less room. I would recommend shelves. Try to build some shelves on the wall. What do you think about kids not being able to get their favorite Amiibo because of scalpers? Many not printed enough, and they sell out in minutes right when the store opens. I think it's terribly unfair. I think in one of my previous Amiibo collection videos I talked a little bit about that. I can't imagine, the 9-year-old, the 10-year-old who depends on mom or dad to drive him to, a particular store at a very early hour to wait for these pre-orders or even, buying the Amiibo when it comes out. So I do think it's very unfair. Fortunately, I think Nintendo's starting to take steps to make sure that these are easier to get. What's your favorite Amiibo design? I would have to say any Amiibo that has a lot of detail on it. I'm a big fan of the big Amiibos too. Things like Meta Knight, Bowser, Donkey Kong, King Dedede. I think those ones that have a lot of detail and that are bigger are the neater ones. What started your passion for collecting Amiibo? I wouldn't call it a passion. I just think it kind of goes hand in hand with collecting Nintendo. What's your favorite Amiibo? Like I said, the bigger ones with detailed paint jobs like Bowser or Donkey Kong. 2 more categories to go. Personal. Did I hear you say in your Amiibo hunting video that you're married? Yes, I am married. I love that this question is punctuated with both a question mark and an exclamation point. Do you have any hobbies other than collecting Nintendo? I do. As you know, I learn languages. I'm a big dog person, love to walk my dogs. And just recently, now that I finished my grad program, I have the time to take up one of the hobbies that I've been wanting to do for a long, long time, which is learn piano. So I have started taking piano lessons. Do you have any interest in other games besides Nintendo, such as Microsoft, Sony, PC? Nintendo has some amazing games, but there are also some really awesome ones on other consoles too. I totally agree. As far as gaming goes, I really don't have a lot of time to game. So the reason Nintendo has won out for me as far as what I collect for is the nostalgia and the fun factor. If I had unlimited time, I would probably dabble more, in the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, but I've got a limited amount of time and a limited amount of money. So Nintendo's what's got it for me. Favorite bands? Oh, love music. My #1 favorite band of all time is Rush. I also like some harder stuff like Metallica, Megadeth, Dragon Force, and I like some lighter stuff too. I like some music in Spanish. Gloria Estefan is a favorite, and so is Alex Sintek. Hardest game you've ever beaten? Oh, I would probably say the second quest of The Legend of Zelda. Have you ever fallen into a pool? My parents actually, I grew up with an in-ground pool. My parents have one, and yes, I have fallen into it. Have you visited the Nintendo World Store in New York? Yes, I have. Made a video about it. I think it was about 2 years ago now. Wanted to ask if you've ever thought about selling your collection. Never do it, in parentheses. And did you ever feel guilty about it? Guilty about selling my collection. If I sold my collection, it would probably be for 2 reasons. Lack of interest or need for money, which I hope neither of those ever happen. So no, I wouldn't feel guilty about selling my collection for those reasons. Also, do you like the movie What About Bob? I'm surprised people know about that movie anymore. I think it was from the 80s. I saw it way, way back when. I don't really remember much of it though. I was really young when I first saw it. Love your videos. Will you ever show your face? Maybe. How old are your dogs and how long have you had them? I've had my dog Timmy, he's 5 years old. I've had him for 5 years. And my younger dog Toby is 4 years old and I've had him for 4 years. I see you love dogs. Do you also like cats? I think cats are a good idea. As far as personality goes, I have a very cat-like personality myself, so I think that's why I don't really care for cats' kind of nonchalant personality. So I'm more of a dog person. But yeah, cats are cool too. How old were you when you got your Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES? It was for my 8th birthday in 1987. If your dogs were Nintendo characters, which ones would they be? They'd be Nintendogs. Is there anything from your Nintendo story, I think they mean my Nintendo Narrative series, that you haven't shared yet? Like a small memory that just wasn't part of your video series? No, I really racked my brain to write everything down for that series, and I think everything's on there. It's very comprehensive. I've seen your videos for a long time, but how do you manage to play games and balance your life? I know it seems silly, but I have a hard time doing it myself. Maybe I'm just not as into gaming as I used to be. That's a really good question. When you become an adult, you do have a lot more responsibilities, especially if you have kids, which I do not have kids. I would tell you that all my responsibilities 100% of the time win out over gaming. And no, I don't game very much either. I game when I feel like it, I game when I have the time, I game when I have the mental capacity to do so, because when I get home after a day of teaching, I'm exhausted. So I don't game very much either. I collect more. But I do enjoy the games that I get a chance to play, and I think that's all you can do. Games really shouldn't be an obligation. They should be, something for enjoyment. Tell me about a day that you were surprised by a game purchase from your parents. This is taken right from my Nintendo Narrative series. It was when I threw a tantrum about not getting The Legend of Zelda, and then later that day I turned around and my dog Ruby came through the door and she had a copy of the game in her mouth. Kind of interesting. Other than video games, do you collect other items? Not nearly as much, or to the degree that I collect video games, but I do have a CD collection. I have collections of movies on DVD, TV on DVD. So yeah, I've got some other collections, but nothing to the degree as my Nintendo collection. What are your thoughts on live streaming? I've just started to get into that myself. Not doing it, obviously, but watching people's live streams or Let's Plays. And I think it's interesting. What do your friends and family think of your collection? What do strangers think of your collection? Friends and family and strangers alike, both of them, when they see the collection, they just get this smile on their face. And I can't tell if it's a smile of, oh my God, or if it's a smile of, wow. But they do get a smile on their face, which is pretty cool. What kinds of dogs do you have, and what are their names? Well, I think both Timmy and Toby are some sort of pointer mix. Pointer are those, mainly white but speckled dogs, with brown or white speckles on them. And they're both mutts. Their faces are very different. I keep looking over at them like I need to confirm what they look like. Their faces are very different. Timmy has more of a blocky pit bull type of head, and Toby has more of a narrow, streamlined greyhound type of head. So I think they may even share a parent, because I rescued them from a shelter that rescues dogs from southern Illinois. So they may have come from a shared parent. What was the first type of computer you remember having? My very first computer I got was when I was a freshman in high school. It was a Packard Bell Legend 11 CD. It was a 486 with a 2400 baud modem and a 2-speed CD-ROM. That was the computer that I first started playing games like Doom 2 and Heretic on. It's my favorite TV show. Current TV show, definitely The Big Bang Theory. Retro TV show, Roseanne. And that wraps it up for personal. E3. How was E3 for you, on a gaming perspective and an Amiibo perspective? E3 for me, I guess, was a little bit of a letdown because they focused so much on Mario Maker, which I already knew about. Star Fox was definitely a nice surprise, although we kind of already knew about it. As far as Amiibo goes, I gotta tell you, anytime they announce more Amiibo, I almost have a panic attack, because I start thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get this? How am I going to get that one? Now we got the Animal Crossing cards. How's this going to go? So, like I said, I'm just waiting for Amiibo to be done and for me to have the complete collection. But all in all, it was pretty good. I really did enjoy their Muppet segment. I thought that was kind of a neat way to, convey their philosophy of change. So, I liked that aspect. What is Nintendo's best E3 conference? The worst? And how closely do you typically follow E3? I really don't follow E3. I was thrilled when Nintendo started doing more of their Nintendo Directs for E3 instead of presentations. And I just watch Nintendo. I don't watch anybody else because I really don't have a stake in what other gaming companies are doing. As far as the best E3, I would have to say is when they announced Kid Icarus for the 3DS. I also like, and this may have been the same one, I can't remember, when Shigeru Miyamoto kind of surprised everybody coming through that little screen with sword and nunchuck, or Wii Remote and nunchuck, when they were talking about Skyward Sword for the Wii. Those are my two favorite moments of E3. And the worst was probably when a bunch of people from the Treehouse got on stage and started playing Wii music. That didn't go over so well. And what was your opinion about Nintendo's digital event? All in all, I liked it. Nothing groundbreaking, but I think overall it was a nice show. So that's it. Those are all nearly 150 questions that my subscribers submitted to me for this Q&A, and I want to thank you for taking the time to do that, as well as watching my videos. 10,000 subscribers, isn't a whole lot, if you take a look at other gaming channels, but for me, that's pretty big. As far as my responsibilities as a teacher and my responsibilities at home, I can't put out content every week. I put out content when I have the energy to do it and when I have the time to do it. So I appreciate that so many people are interested in what I have to talk about, and this video is just kind of a thank you to all of you for subscribing to World of Nintendo. So until next time, you'll see me then.